I'm Hannah Spicer, and this is the Phase 4 Training Quality Assurance score sheet that I'll be using to score my Phase 4 video. The left side column is a list of the task completions for Phase 4, and on the right side is the temperament scores. Training Quality Assurance, or TQA, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization focused on working with experts in the equine and ranching industry to set industry quality standards and certifications in training and selling horses to the public, as well as working on ranches where horsemanship, stockmanship, and roping skills are required. The first task completion is review, stand to get on for an inexperienced horse owner, horizontal direction in stage 1 standing, and lope outside. The definition of direction is when the slack is taken out of the rein, the horse puts the slack back into the rein with suppleness through the poll and loin. Stage 1 is defined as stop the inside front foot and walk the other feet forward around it. For stand to get on for an inexperienced horse owner, I gave him a -1 because he tried to walk off a little bit. He has decent horizontal direction standing, but as you can see, I did it at a walk. He also has a really good stage 1. He did quite well loping in a straight line away from the barn outside. Second on the list is horizontal direction, trotting, and loping. There's 6 signs to identify horizontal direction. By the poll, break in the poll horizontally, hairline curves in between ears, nose directly underneath the eye, and you should not see any white in the eye looking back, not forward. Through the loin, the front feet and hind feet travel the same path as the nose. Poll and loin should make a perfect C around rider's leg, and you should be able to ride a perfect circle. For horizontal direction, trotting, and loping, I gave him a task completion score of +2 because he had pretty good horizontal direction in his circles. He drifted out before going back towards the fence a little bit, but overall he had a good break in his poll horizontally. His front and hind feet traveled in the same path as his nose, and he made a good C shape around my leg. Next on task completions is stage 2 with willing submission, standing, walking, trotting, and loping. The definition of stage 2 is hindquarters pulling the horse in a reverse motion. The definition of willing submission is after initial cue, the horse performs the task on a loose rein and with no leg pressure. It's the horse's idea. I gave this colt a task completion score of 0 because I felt like he had a really good stop. He didn't throw his head up in the air. He got his hindquarters under him to stop. He also stopped with willing submission. I never had to ask him twice. But the reason I scored him a 0 is because with backing up, he didn't use his hindquarters first. He immediately stepped back with his front 2 feet, and sometimes I had to ask him several times or even go from stage 1 into stage 2 to get stage 2. Such as right here where he took a couple steps forward, and then I had to ask him more with my legs to get him to back up, and I eventually got a couple of steps. Next on the task completion column is stage 3 with willing submission, not using the fence. The definition of stage 3 is lateral movement of front and hind feet together. For stage 3 with willing submission, not on the fence, I gave this colt a 0 task completion score because when side passing to the right, he did pretty well, but when I was asking him to side pass left, I had to use the fence. Next on the task completion side is stage 4 with willing submission, not using the fence. The definition of stage 4 is stop the inside hind foot and walk the other feet forward around it. I combined my task completion score of 0 for both stage 4 with willing submission not using the fence and rollbacks on the fence because I wasn't able to get stage 4 off the fence, so I just scored a 0 for both of those task completions. He started off moving his hindquarters around and not his front feet, but then eventually he took a couple front feet steps, which is what we were looking for. While he did take several steps forward going to the right, he did roll back much better. We did have to use the fence to stop forward motion, but once we stopped, his hindquarters stopped and his front feet moved forward and around it pretty well. Number 7 on task completion is vertical direction, walk, slow, and extended trot. Again, the definition of direction is when the slack is taken out of the rein, the horse puts the slack back into the rein with suppleness through the poll and loin. Vertical direction is up and down movement of the atlas vertebrae. For vertical direction, I gave this colt a positive 2. His nose was directly underneath his eye most of the time, and he was really responsive when I picked up on the bit. He tucked his nose in nicely. It was really nice and straight right here where his nose is directly underneath his eye. Last on task completion is drag and rope dummy, show 4 stages with willing submission in vertical direction, and rope cow if available. For dragging and roping the dummy, showing 4 stages with willing submission in vertical direction, and roping the cow if available, I scored this horse with the task completion of positive 2. I wasn't able to show all 4 stages when dragging and roping the dummy, but he did really well with his temperament. When tracking the cow, he got relief to his head when he was tracking the cow, and he got doubled back and forth if he tried to leave the cow. He did really well and almost never left the cow. Thanks for watching. The last thing in my video I'll go over is the daily score sheets. These sheets basically track your progress, and they track information like who the owner is, what the payment method is, and the dates and progress of your training. This is just an example, but you can see that the foundation and temperament and task completion all started out in the negative, and as you move on through the training process, it turns positive. For this particular horse, the temperament turned positive very fast. The task completions were a bit slower, but all around he was a great horse to work with.